Shalom everyone, I hope you're having a lovely day. I pray that you're having a peaceful day. I pray for blessings and peacefulness to you and your home. Let us give glory and honor to the Most High God, Yahweh, who provides us with His knowledge to know His word and to work in His word and to live for His word. Let us give glory and honor to the Most High God for allowing us some guidance through this life. Amen. The man was paralyzed. His 4 friends, therefore, had to carry him to Jesus after they tore through the roof and let the man down into Jesus' presence. Mark 2:5 notes that Jesus saw their faith. How can faith be visible? Like love, it becomes visible in actions, as the persistence of the friends openly illustrates. The man's obvious need was physical. However, when he comes into Jesus' presence, the first words Jesus pronounces refer to forgiveness of sins. The man speaks not a word during the entire scene. Instead, it is the religious leaders who object in their minds to what Jesus has just said. They consider his words blasphemous, slandering God and taking on prerogatives that belong only to God. Jesus meets the objectors on their own ground by using a typical rabbinic style of argumentation called lesser to greater. It is one thing to say that a person's sins are forgiven. It is another thing to actually make a paralyzed man walk. If Jesus can make the man walk by the power of God, then his claim to forgive sins finds affirmation. These religious leaders lost sight of what really mattered: justice, mercy, and walking humbly before God. So obsessed with defending their understanding of God, they were blinded to God's working right before their eyes. Nothing indicated that the men changed their minds about Jesus, even though he gave them more than enough evidence to know that he was from God. Not only by letting them know that he could read their minds, no simple feat in and of itself, but also by healing the paralytic in their presence in a way that they could not deny. Tax collectors in Jesus' day were civil servants under the local or Roman government. They were unpopular among the Jewish population in Judea because they often exacted more than required and became rich off their countrymen. A Jewish commentary on religious law, the Mishnah ℍ𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒 says, "If tax gatherers enter a house, all that is within it becomes unclean." Thus it is not surprising that the scribes inquired disapprovingly, "Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?" How did Jesus respond to that question? He doesn't reject it. Instead, he turns it on its head, indicating that people who are sick, not who are healthy, need a doctor. He thereby claims the moniker of spiritual doctor, the one who can heal the sin-sick soul, and should not a doctor go where the sick are. Mark 2:18-22 picks up a new theme. It is a central story of these 5 stories dealing with controversy, where the previous section included a feast provided by Levi. This next story revolves around the question of fasting. It consists of a query as to why Jesus' disciples do not fast, when John the Baptist and the Pharisees do. Jesus responds with illustration or parable in which he compares his presence to a wedding feast. It would be an extremely odd wedding if the guests all fasted, but Jesus does predict a day when the bridegroom will be taken away, an allusion to the cross. There will be plenty of time for fasting then. Jesus continues with 2 illustrations that highlight the contrast between his teaching and that of the religious leaders. Unshort cloth in an old garment, and new wine in old wineskins. What an interesting way to contrast the teaching of Christ and the religious leaders. It shows just how corrupted the ways of the teachers had become. Even true religion can be turned into darkness if people are not careful. In Mark 2, verses 23 and 24, the Pharisees accused the disciples of breaking the Shabbat. According to Jewish tradition, 39 forms of labor were forbidden on the Shabbat, which in the Pharisees' minds included what the disciples had done. Jesus responds with the story of David's eating the sacred showbread in 1 Samuel chapter 21 verses 1 to 6, which we read through in our first video. The showbread was removed on the Shabbat, so David's journey may well have been an emergency escape on the Shabbat. Jesus argues that if David and his men were justified in eating the showbread, then Jesus' disciples are justified in plucking and eating grain. Jesus further indicates that the Shabbat was made for the benefit of humanity, not the other way around, and that the basis for his claim is that he is the Lord of the Shabbat. Again, Jesus faces controversy with the religious leaders over the Shabbat. Notice, however, the controversy is never over the Shabbat day itself. The religious leaders want to accuse Jesus if he heals on the Shabbat. Jesus does not shy away from confronting them. He sets up a contrast between doing good or doing harm, saving life or killing. The answer to his question is obvious. Doing good and saving life are much more appropriate as Shabbat activities. Jesus proceeds to heal the man, which angers his opponents, who immediately start to plan his demise. The irony of the story is that those looking to catch Jesus in Shabbat breaking were themselves breaking the Shabbat by plotting his death that very same day.